This is Gemara Metziah, Daf Kuf Hey, and we're holding on the bottom of Kuf Dalid Amid Beis. We're at the end of the very first wide line, and today's shir we like to one last day dedicate, and is an incredible schos Aliyas Nishama for Yisrael Meir ben Tzvi Halevi b'siyata d'Shemaya. Schus HaTorah over the yontiv of Shavuos should bring Yisrael Meir ben Tzvi Halevi to higher and higher place in Gan Eden Shel Ma'ilam. We're holding at the end of the first wide line on Kov Dalam and Beis teaches the Gemara. Hu Gavra, there was a person, the Kibal Ara L'Shumshimi, that he accepted a piece of land, he leased a field L'Shumshimin for sesame, Zara Chiti, instead of planting what the field was normally used for sesame, what did he do? He planted wheat of the Chiti Tzfeim and Shumshimi. And believe it or not, even though Shumshin is usually more expensive, but it produced more wheat than sesame. And therefore, the owner really gained a profit. So what exactly do we do over here? So Savar Ravina Lemeimar Yavle Shvacha Debeni Yubeni. Ravina thought that the owner has to give the sharecropper the value difference between what was actually produced and what sesame would have produced, meaning the owner has to compensate and pay more. Did the farmer bring about the gain? Did the land not contribute? So say Rav Achim Midifti, absolutely not. The owner does not have to compensate. Why not? Because the land was an equal contributing partner to the fact that this field grew an expensive crop, and therefore the owner does not have to reimburse him. Says the Gemara, Amri Nahardai, segueing from business ventures of land into those involving capital, involving cash. Hayiska, there was a business, Palga Milva Upalga Pekadin. A business of merchandise, we treat it, this goes back to the Hazav, the Neshach days. We treat it that it's half a loan and half a deposit. Over Rabbanan Milsa, the Rabbanan said, at the Kanan the Rabbanan, Tinichalei Leloiva, that the loiva, who is the managing partner, the one that's actually utilizing the cash, buying the merchandise, etc. And as well will be agreeable to the malva. So says the Nahardai, now that we say that it's half a milva, it's half a loni by lemishte beis chara, shabir dami. If the partner, the one who's managing the money, managing the merchandise, wants to sell half, and sit and drink beer with the proceeds, Shabir Dami, he could do what he wants because the half milva allows him to do what he wants with his own profits. Rava Amar, that's what the Bnei Nahardai said. Rava Amar Lachakarli Iska. No, this is why we call it an Iska, a business. Because the guy who gave the money, the investor, he's allowed to say, why did I give you the cash? I didn't give you the cash so that you could just cash out and sit and drink beer all day. I gave it to you to use it in business and not just to sit and drink it away in the bar. Amar Ravidi Baravin, similarly, Vimis. What happens if the person who's managing this business dies? Nasa mitaltalin eitzalbanav, the loan becomes mitaltalin to his children and can't be collected. The kids will have rights to that half of the money. Rava Amar Lachikari Iska. Rava argues and says no. So we have machlekes 2 different times, and each time Rava is bringing out the kayach of the person who gave the money. In the first case, in that he could demand extra work. In the second case, that it does not become metalton to the children of the managing partner, and rather will indeed go back to the original investor. Amai Rav on the last line. Chad iska trei shtara. If there's one iska, but it's written into two shtarais, pseida de malva. The malva, the lender, the one who gave the cash, he loses. But on the other hand, as we turn over to Kofheim and Aleph, trei iska, if it's two different business ventures, but v'chad shtara, it's written into one shtar, then pseida de loiva, then the loiva is the one that's going to lose in such a scenario. Continues the Gemara, ve'amar Rava. And Rava continues, hi man, tekabel iska min chavre, if someone accepts business from his friend, and upasid, and he loses money, tarach umalya v'lo yediyeh. He then tries hard, umalye, and he fills in that which he lost, v'lo yediyeh, and he never told the investor that lamaisa, we lost a lot of cash. Okay, then I worked hard, and I was able to figure it out. Loi matzi amar le, he can't later say, dari mehach seida badai. Some of that loss, originally there was a loss. I worked hard, I overplayed most of it. But that original loss, I want you to absorb with me. You can't say that later. Why? Because the investor can say, you say, this is the reason. What's the whole reason why you tried hard to fill in, to make sure that the money was there? So people don't call you one who loses business ventures. You'll never be able to do business again if everyone knows that you lost such cash. And therefore, you can't now come back to me and say, you want me to absorb that loss. And Amar Rava, one last halach. Hanu Beitrei Daviska Badi Adadi. Two people embark on a business together. Again, purchasing merchandise, and we have a managing partner, we have original investor, Veravach, and it showed a profit. One says other, okay, let's split out. The other one can say, no, let it sit in the business and make more money. So they have machlekes. Do we cash out, or do we leave the money in? Dinahu dema'akif. The halacha is he can block the first guy from leaving and keep the money inside the business to hopefully profit further. V'amar le havli palga, because if he says to his friend havli palga deravcha, v'amar le, excuse me, if he says havli palga deravcha, give me half of the profit. Amar le ravcha le karna mishtabe. No, where does profit go? We reinvest it; it goes back into the carry, back into the principal. V'amar le havli palga ravcha. Excuse me, v'amar le havli palga ravcha palga karna. Let's say he says, give me half of everything, half of the carry and half of the revach. Amar le iska ladadi mishubin. No, the two halves are mishubin to each other. V'amar le niflik ravcha v'niflik karna. V'matalacha pseida. But if he says, let us split the profit and split up the original principal, v'matalacha pseida, and if there's going to be a loss, the rina behadach, I'll have the loss with you. No, the mazel of two people is better, so it proves the Gemara that each party could demand not to cash out, not to split it up as much as the other might try, and rather to keep the money in the business. 3 lines from the Y lines, we go back to really the topic of this parak. Hamekabel sada mechaverei. Back at the field, so leases a field from his friend. He didn't weed it. Why do you care? I'm going to give you what is yours. Regardless if I weed the field. Why not? And you're going to leave me tomorrow, and then I'm going to have just a field of weeds. So there's a certain basic that one has to do, and weeding is included in that. Says the Gemara, if the worker tells the owner, I'll plow the field after I harvest it, and therefore there'll be no more problem with the weeds. No, I still want you to weed. Why? Because after you get rid of the weeds, it grows a better crop. I'll buy you better crop from the shuk. I want my own wheat. If he says, okay, so I'll get rid of the weeds from your part of the field. People are going to talk badly about my field. A seed that falls has fallen, and therefore next season it'll produce even more weeds. So we see that getting rid of the weeds is an integral part of the agreement, and therefore if someone leases a field with the arrangement that he's going to give back to owner part of the crop, he has to weed appropriately. Continues the Gemara in the fifth line of and there wasn't a good crop. If there's enough crop to make a pile, he has to care for it. Amar Yehuda, my kitzo bikri. What does that mean? What limit? What amount is that bikri? Mishla kedei nefila. If there's enough to replant the field again, then you have to care for the field. Tana Rabbanan explains the Gemara. If yesh gelam b'kri chavdaba shekach kosav loy. Ani oikim v'aniar ve'ezra ve'echsar ve'emid ve'edesh ve'idri ve'oikim karoi kadamoch. The reason is because that's what they write in the shtar. I will stand, plow, sow, and reap, bind, thresh, winnow, and ve'oikim karoi kadamoch, and pull up a pile. If they say ant v'tito, palga, you're going to come and take half. Ana ba'amli oben afkos yodai palga. And for my labor and my expenses, I will take half. So he's obligated as long as it makes a heap, because that is that which was written in the original shtar. So says the Gemara, okay, but how much is that? What amount is that? Amar Rav Yosi, Rav Chanina K'dei Shtamin by harachas. You know what it means? It means the amount that a shovel could stand up in it. So Yibayilu asked the Gemara, if it stands up in the heap, but it comes out of both sides, what is the halacha? Is that considered large enough, even though it holds the shovel, but you can see, the edges popping out? Is that considered a pile that's large enough? Tashim Amar Rabu Alidim Varshli made Rav Yisrael Chanina, called Shein Kainin Shalai Roya Pnei Achama. As long as the scoop doesn't see the sun, meaning as long as the shovel head is at some level buried into the ground, then that would be enough to create the chiyuv. Itmar says the Gemara, Levi Amar, a different definition of what a kri is. Amar shalosh sayim, Rav Yanei Amri sasayim tu samri, shlokish sasayim shamru chutz ben ha'itza. Tanan hasam, we learned in a Mishnah, Pritei Zeisim, the Pritim of Zaitim, V'anavim and Olive, Beishamei Tam Beis Hillel, Mitaharim. Beishamei says, Tamei Beis Hillel says, it is Tamei. So everyone wants to know, my Pritei Zaitim, what are these items? Amar Rav Huna, these items are Rishai Zaitim, wicked olives, which are olives that do not ripen, explains Rashi. Amar Rav Yitzchak, Omai Kra, says the pasuk, the sons of the wicked of the Priti will lift up and make a vision, but they will stumble. And the Ben Paritz, the wicked son, that which spills blood. Says the Gemara, what level is it called Priti Zaitim? Meaning, of course, the olives ripen a little bit. So at what level, microphone issues, at what level of ripeness is it still called Pritei Zaitim? Rav Elazar Amar, Arba is Kam Lekura, Rav Yani Amar Sasayim Lekura. V'loi Pligi says Gemara, Ha Da'asra, Demalikura Be'ulala, one core that makes the mound, Abasa Demalitlas Lekurim Ba'ulala. And when Rav Yanai said, Sasayim Lekura, two pour the beam, they put three cores to make the mound. So that's going to be what it's still called these unripe or these not ripening dates. That's going to be the halacha. So Tana Rabban says the Gemara, as we turn over to Kavei Amid Beis, Alu Be'ilan Shechayra, they, Alu, who's they? The top Rashi speaks out, Zav Tar, Le'ilan Shechayra. We have a Zav and a tar person, a zav and a tar. What are they doing? They're going up Lilan. They climb into a tree, that's a very weak tree. Ubesukam, or on a weak branch, a strong tree. Tameh, the lacha is the tar person becomes tummy. So that's why we're bringing this down. It's a little bit random, but again, it's a member of the Ve'er of Yanai. That the trunk is out of space, a quarter out of quarter of a kav. What's the case of a weak branch? So thin that you could grab it, that when you put it in your hand, you don't even see it. It's in your hand. That's going to be a branch that's weak. And because it's going to be considered that the one person is exerting his pressure on the other, therefore the halacha is it's going to make the entire person tummy. Tanan Hasam, we learned in a Mishnah, someone's walking in a Vesa Bras, which is a plowed over field that had graves in there prior. Al Kabi Avanim Shiachal Hasid Al Adam. If he's walking top of stones, they're able to move. Al Adam Al Behema Shekaychen Ra. Or he's riding on an Adam or Behema that's weak. Tameh, the tar person becomes Tameh. Hey Chidami Adam Shekaychen Ra. What does that mean? Reish Lakish Kol Shareich Voivar Kaboisav. Noikshais, that by carrying him, his knees knocked together while carrying Hechda Behema Shekaychen Ra. Amr Dvi Rav Yana. And again, another din of Rav Yanai, which is why this is being brought down over here, 10 lines down. First word line is Yanai, Amar Rav Yanai, Kol, Sharoich by Matila Galolim. Any animal that when someone rides in it causes the animal to use the bathroom, that's called the Behema Shekei and the Torah person will come Tameh for walking over these stones. Amri Dvi Rav Yanai, a last and third sidebar halacha of Dvi Rav Yanai, Tefillah Dalad Kabin, for Tefillin and Tefillah, it's 4 kav. What does that mean? What is this din of 4 kav? Tefillah ma'id Tanya. Hanoisi masayach seifai. V'gizman tefillah. If you're carrying a package and Zman tefillah comes, bachas mi dalad kavim. Someone's carrying less than dalad kavim. Then mavshil nachayrav. You let us swing it behind himself. You keep it on the back of you, and you let it daven. But once it's arba kavin, once it is 4 kav, then the halacha is al gabi kar. Miniach al gabi kar. You got to put it down on misvalel. Let tefillin ma'u. What's it in a 4 kav for tefillin? The Tanya, you learned in a brayse. If someone's carrying a package, which is the mannerism, they used to carry things, they would pile it on their head. It's tefillin b'raishai. Also, if the tefillin are being crushed by the burden, it's also not mutter. And that's the fourth halacha by Rav Yanai. Tani Rav Chia. Hamaitzi Zevel al Rosh, someone's getting manure in his head, it's filling Rosh, Ariza lo Yisalkim the Stadim. Shah moved tefillin to the side, like Kasher b'Maislav, and he should have taken off the tefillin and tied around his weight. And they should noik b'aminig b'zayin. Ava, what should he do? Kaishan al zara, you should take off your head tefillin, you should tie it on your arm. B'makav tefillin, in the place of the tefillin. B'shon devei Shila Amru, in the first one line, Afilu b'atvecha shalem, even the wrap of the tefillin, it cannot be put on the head, which there are tefillin. So the Dvei Rav Shila is adding on that you're not allowed to carry the box of the tefillin while you're carrying the tefillin, meaning you can't put that on your head to carry that while you're carrying the tefillin. Even a light item, if you're wearing your tefillin, you're not allowed to have something on your head. Now, when you hear this, someone may wonder, wait, when we wear our tefillin, we carry something on our head. It's called a yarmulke. It's called a hat. So the Paiskim speak out over here that obviously if it's something which is normal to be worn on the head, then it's not going to be called a weight, and it will not be not allowed while you're carrying the tefillin. Amar Rev Yehuda. Going back to the din of the Mishnah, my kitzah b'kri. What does it mean in the Kri? So Rav Yehuda learned in the Mishnah that the defining characteristic is not if there's enough to pile up a pile, but rather if there's enough to plant the crop again. V'kamaktin says Gemara, Rav Ami Amar, Rav Yechlan, Arba saw in the core. Rav Ami Dilei Amar Shemoines saw in the core. So 4 8 saw in the core. Amleah who sabel Rav Nachama B'Reid Rabba Baravua Asul Lacha. I'll explain to you. The land was more fertile, therefore 4 sa was enough to produce a core of produce. But have a and that's why you needed 8 sa. So they're not really arguing just how much seed is necessary to plant the requisite core of crop. Tanan also learned in a Mishnah. Wind scattered the sheaves of the leket of the stalks. You have to leave it for the aniyim. We estimate how much we normally leave. And Nois lanin kedina fila. V'kam kedina fila. Kasser dima Rav Lazar v'dim Rav Yechon Arbaz kam in the core, and that's why we bring that as halacha, because the same parameters as our halacha. The Rashbagi is saying the amount they have to leave for the aniyim is kedei nefila. So by Rav Yirmiyah, with this we conclude with one final shayla: lekor zera, lekor tvua. What does it mean for a core? Is that a core of seeds, or is that a core of actual produce being produced? And if the core of seed, is that by hand or by ox in different quantities, whether you plant it by hand or whether you let the ox do such as Shema. Zera. Said explicitly in the Brisa Zera. So the Brisa says explicitly that when we're saying the amount of a core, it doesn't mean to produce a core, it means a core of Zera. Now, whether it's a Polis and a Polis Shvarim, that's something which we do not know. And the Gemara ends off Teku, we'll pick it up in the Mishnah, Psiyata de Shmaya.